This feels good.
Let's go.
You are my dream. There's no me without you. You are my dream. You're what dreams are made for. You are my dream. We're a three-strand cord.
Yeah. Can you feel the rhythm of the soul? That's the heartbeats, let's go. Dive in with its riches untold. Let the greatest love story unfold. And yeah, all I know, I can't fall back. God pinned the format, officiated the first wedding and all that. So I'm all strapped with love stories that recall back times we made it to the light when it looked all black. Hashtag relationship goals. Let's go where God wants us to go. We ain't gotta drive, it's escort us outside. In His grace we can fly, there's really no downside. Can we dance to His heartbeat? Be quiet when His heart speaks. Come on, be honest when our heart meets. As we listen to our heartbeats.
You are my dream. There's no me without you.
Happy New Year, everybody, and welcome back to the Heartbeatz podcast. I'm your host, Ruth Kogan, and I'm so grateful you've joined us on the podcast all about love, specifically, and most importantly, the love God has for us as demonstrated in how He brings two people together for marriage and how He's loving upon His singles. And I have a super special episode for you today. We get to meet my great Uncle Art and great Aunt Judy Herwaldt. So this is on my mother's side of the family and way out in California. And we get kind of a 2-for-1 deal with their episode today because there's a Herwaldt family legacy story of how my great-grandfather and great-grandmother, in other words, Uncle Art's parents and my grandfather's father and stepmother came to be, and how they became a couple, how God brought them together. And so we get to hear their story, or at least a piece of it, and then hear how God brought Uncle Art and Aunt Judy together. And they also have a very beautiful story, a lot of wisdom and nuggets for our generation, whatever that means for you, whatever your generation is. They have been married for over 60 years, and they were such a joy to talk to and hear about their love and passion for the gospel of Jesus Christ, and how they love each other and how they've grown to learn how to love each other. So it's a very, very special episode. I hope you glean and just sit back and enjoy the stories, the history. And as you're listening to their story, I want you to pay attention to what pieces are sticking out to you. Around here, we call that your heartbeat, which is what is God saying to you as you hear and listen to their story. And at the end of that episode, you'll hear mine. I always share one of mine, and I'd love to hear yours as well. And as a reminder, before we head in, that really the purpose of us hearing one another's stories is because God wants to encourage us. He wants to teach us and challenge us and build our faith through the testimonies and lives of others. So I want to encourage you in 2023, God may have a story that He wants you to share about your life, and don't hesitate. So with that said, you all, let's meet Uncle Art and Aunt Judy. All right, Aunt Judy and Uncle Art, welcome to the Heartbeatz podcast.
Welcome to you.
Welcome to you.
And we've got this crazy thing.
Thank you. This is such an honor and a treat. And we know we've been working through some tech issues from the beginning.
Right.
Already, right? But But I'm just so honored to introduce you all to those that listen to this podcast. It's really great, Uncle Art, and great Aunt Judy to me. Uncle Art, you are the half brother of my grandfather. My grandfather, Fred, who is very dear to the Herwaldt side of my family. So we are going to kind of get into a little bit of the family history, but can you all just start off and share your beautiful selves and what should we know about Art and Judy Herwaldt?
Well, we live in Fresno, California, and we've been married 61 years, but we've grown up here, and we moved here from Chicago and went to Tucson. My dad had asthma, and so we moved to a climate that would be better suited. The doctors recommended. We didn't stay there very long because my dad had been involved in a German Brotherhood fellowship, and I think your grandpa was involved in Flint, Michigan also.
Yes.
So it was missing there, and Fresno had that ability here with the German Brotherhood. There was 2 churches in Fresno that served in that area, and they kind of met kind of separately within a church, and they had their own elders, and they would select man for somebody to lead and to speak, and so that's kind of what brought us to Fresno.
Wow.
And so we've just really enjoyed the area, and
we have 3 daughters, and they all live in California.
Awesome.
And so therefore Christmas, and we're in Central California, so therefore Christmas, holidays, or any holidays, they all descend on our house.
I bet.
And they're coming in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks. So, and then we have 12 grands, and they're all coming too also. So we have 12 grands and 3 daughters, and 2 son-in-laws, and one that decided it was not a good thing. So, but anyway, God is in all of it. So
yes,
that's our life, and
that's amazing.
Where we are.
Yes. Oh man. And our Michigan family, I'm just gonna say, has been a little slightly jealous of the California family because Michigan is a lot colder, a lot cloudier. So we've all dreamt of visiting Fresno, I will be honest.
Maybe the weather, but the political, we prefer not even Michigan. But
yeah.
Sorry, oh dear, that was not necessary to say. But the weather is lovely. It's
the
raining
weather,
today.
yes.
Yeah, it's raining today, and we're grateful.
Right.
Oh man. Well, that's amazing. It was interesting to hear Uncle Art, you mentioned the German Brotherhood. That's a big part of the Herwaldt family. A big part of the Herwaldt stories is the immigration to America and forming that community with, the German Brotherhood. So I just have to say, you just physically, you remind me of my grandfather. So Grandpa Fred. So I see the family resemblance, and I'm just wondering if you would share with the family, or with the family, yes, with the family, with the podcast family, how are you and my Grandpa Fred, half brothers? Like, there's a story behind that I think is important context to who you are, Uncle Art.
Okay. My dad, of course, came from Russia, but he came and landed in Illinois, and a suburb of Chicago. Married, and his first wife, they were married, I don't know how many years, but there were 6 children born to that mother, and so your dad, I mean, your grandpa was part of that. And so that's kind of how that process, if I go into detail, how my dad, then his wife, first wife, died of tuberculosis. And so my mother was, when she came from Russia, their family landed in Michigan. And so they took up residence there and started a farm and was working. But when his first wife died, they had to disperse the children around my dad. And so the six of them were spread out because there was no other, well, he had family there, but, he was already part of the brotherhood. And some of those took those children at that time. And so it just, somebody recommended that he would meet my mother. And I don't know how that process worked, but he became involved there with her. And her mother said, "You need to marry that man." And, she didn't know him very well. I don't know, if there was, the love grew, I knew, in the relationship, but
Yeah.
Well, when I would talk to her about that relationship, I said, Mom, did you love him? She said, well, he wasn't so bad, except when he came, I told him, don't wear that hat anymore. I don't like that hat. I don't know what kind of hat it was, but he always did wear a hat. But she made sure he changed it.
Oh my goodness.
She was so cute. She was wonderful. But I remember her telling me that she needed to do it. She said this was going to be something she should do. And so, was there love? I don't know. Was there like? Yes. She said, I wouldn't have gone with him if I wasn't attracted to him a little bit. So anyway, so
they married, and Louis, my brother, was born in 1932. And there was hard times. I know my dad got asthma real bad, and he worked in the coal industry, and he had to leave that particular business. And so they were really on welfare because he was really sick for about 5 years. And then I came along in 1937. And so here I'm growing up with all these other siblings and not knowing.
You didn't know they were not his real brothers until he was how old were you?
I figured it out because Mom and Dad wouldn't tell me, how long they've been married and how old the other children were.
Oh my goodness.
Well, I figured that later on in life, but I just
they were really good. Yeah.
And even that didn't even change because of, the love that I had for them. But I was young.
Right.
But in 1941, the war started. And here we have a family of 5 boys there beside Louis and us. And they were all drafted at one time into the service. And just I can remember just a little bit about my father's and mother's reaction. I mean, the hurt, because going into war and not knowing what would happen, what would develop, if they would be killed or what would happen in the service. So I was 4 years old when they left the house. But, I was really in love with all those, all these brothers. And it was really hard for me, for them to be gone. And so,
wow.
Kind
of that's how the
relationship was sweet. I have to tell a story, though. I'm going to back up a little bit. Your grandma and grandpa were here, Fred and Ella, and they met our youngest daughter's husband to be.
Mm.
And your grandma said, "Oh dear, he is a keeper. Don't let him get away." That was they were here in California at that time. That was so cute. She really liked him, and he is a keeper.
Oh,
But
man.
this sweet story about these boys, it was really sweet. Every single one of them were so special to Art and Lewis. Both of them were very they were loved by these boys. They were really good boys. Right. All of them were good. Mm-hmm. We really had good times when they'd come here, and occasionally I think a couple of times we visited there, at least one time. Art did too, but it was a good family.
So as it progressed, during the war and then after the war, my folks were trying to get a hold of all my brothers, and let them know that they were going to move to Tucson. None of them were at home yet from the service, and they got a hold of 4 of them, but my brother Carl, they couldn't get a hold of him anyplace. And the day that we were to move to Tucson, he came home to the house, and the house is empty, not knowing what's going on, that we were moving because of his illness. And so that was really a hard time. They had made arrangements for him to stay at an uncle in Maywood, Illinois, and so that was taken care of. But I mean, I saw the damage of that brother.
He was very hurt by that for years. It took a long time for him to get over that, but God was good.
Wow. We take for granted these days that cell phones and that kind of instant communication, but at that time that didn't exist. So just you saying, like, them trying to get a hold, oh man, I can't imagine how challenging and difficult that must have been. It
was hard.
And look at us now, connecting over Zoom.
Isn't that awesome? I know. That's good.
Go ahead, Uncle Art.
So your grandpa and his brother Bill kind of landed in Flint, Michigan.
Yeah.
And I know they had started a relationship, I think, with your grandma, and so that's where they ended up. And I can remember just thinking of trying to put the time together, but I know we attended the wedding of your grandpa and grandma, and they must have preceded Carl coming to the house. And so I think it was very shortly before that. So we attended the wedding, and that was kind of, the separation was really hard because, I really basically had 4 years of knowing them. And
he was 7 when they went to Tucson, and that, so he knew them, but probably not as intimately, or as close as he would have. We talked about this prior to our time of interviewing with you, that I said, "What do you remember about them?" And he doesn't remember a lot about them because he was so young.
Sure.
So, but anyway, it's good. But it's good.
Oh man,
a sweet family, very, very, and his mother was really fun. She was a sweetheart. She had you
would have to be that's the family story, that we've always heard exactly, that you sort of lived out her decision was, just what you said, that it was presented like, you need a wife, and however the process worked, like you said, they recommended it's Catherine, right?
Yes, Catherine with a C. Yeah,
Catherine with a C, and that she agreed to marry your father and take on 6 children. And just this gift of service, of really what you were saying, Aunt Judy, about asking her, did you love him? And it's like on a certain level she had to, because love is a choice, right? Love is a decision. I'm going to take on your burdens. I'm going to take on your children that she might not have felt the, in love feelings, but there's a certain level of, at least I'm choosing to take on your to join life with you. I mean, that's a pretty amazing.
The sweet part about the story too is that she told me one time, she said, when we had some good times, she and I, she said, I know she loved her mother. And she said about her mother, she said, my mother said this was a good thing. And I almost think that she did it almost in obedience to her mom. As a recognition of the importance of, because her mother was the kind of person in the community that would always bring food to the poor. And so she understood the concept of giving to others. So here was her opportunity to enter into a family. So I think that was all part of it that triggered her choice too. It was really sweet. So.
And did you know, Uncle Art, I'm curious, growing up, you didn't know that those brothers were half brothers, but did you have, watching your parents' marriage, did you have any sense that this is how their marriage started? I mean, I don't know what your process, what you understood as a kid, but did their marriage to you look like
good question,
a normal, I don't know, whatever normal means, I guess, but
yeah,
he's never told me. Come on, tell me what you would say to that. What would you say?
I'm figuring out what normal is, but I just know that my mom and dad loved your grandpa and the other brothers as much as they loved us.
Did they love each other though? Did you see that love?
I saw the love. Other highly respected my dad. And
yes. Wow. I think that is a good statement there. The respect was huge in her eyes. She took her responsibility well as a support, as God's word teaches, the helper. She really understood her role in that regard, I think, and that respect she had for him and his love for the word. So,
but she came into that relationship, with 6 and then 2 added, with 8 children, 5 leaving. But I mean, she was committed to making life work. My dad was sick, and then he had to transition into a new business. And somebody came along and helped him to develop into a shoe repair. So he opened up a store, and so that's what started in Maywood. And I know a couple of the brothers went into that area of vocation. But I mean, she was a mother that she cleaned houses, went to the shop, and she had to walk. She didn't drive. They didn't have a car at that point, I don't think, and it was 12 blocks away, and she'd go there and help my dad with stitching and different aspects of the repair. And then with 8 children there, before the war started, it was I just praise her for what she did to make everything function.
She was quite a lady. Yeah. Love her still. Yeah.
I just go ahead, Aunt Judy. I don't want to cut you off.
No, it's okay. One other thing I thought of in looking back, she told me one time that she said, I never wanted to be on welfare. I don't know if she ever took welfare. She may have in a pinch, but she being pregnant with these boys, and it was very difficult for her when he got sick, because he was sick with emphysema, her husband, and then having the children. And she still hadn't birthed the two boys, but she said, I don't want to be on welfare. So guess what she did? She went and cleaned houses.
Oh, wow.
And so she worked very, very hard. I think she may have taken some welfare, but not, she didn't want to. She would, that was a kind of a disrespect for her, thinking that she wasn't working hard enough. And that woman worked hard. She worked really hard. So she was a sweet lady. Yeah. But anyway.
Wow. No, I just am soaking up all the family history and context, and it's amazing to hear your perspective and what you knew or what you experienced as a child and understood about that heritage, because that, I love learning about family stories because it helps me understand my own self better, and Uncle Art, this plays into who you are and how you showed up in your marriage. And so I do, before we move on, you want to show, you all had some photos, and Judy.
Okay, here's the photo of, this is Art's dad. There he is. Okay, this is Dave.
Okay.
Art's father. And this is probably the picture, because I think Art said where's the camera lens?
Yep.
His father had passed away on the road, on the boat ride from Russia to the United States. And this is the family when they arrived, I think, I believe. So that's that family.
Wow.
It's
so
amazing.
That was a photo of
Art's dad's family.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not the children, though, not the brothers.
No.
Not the brothers.
Okay.
I have one in my scrapbook, but I didn't take it out. But
Got
the
it.
brothers are in there too at one point. So, but I don't have a picture of that available easily, I don't think.
Yes, that's okay.
But anyway, that was
Amazing.
his father's picture.
Father's
anyway,
family.
So family.
That's beautiful.
So,
wow. Well, I thank you all for taking us down memory lane and sharing with people about the family, the Herwaldt family history. And I want to transition to focus on you two now. And you said something that I didn't get a chance to react to, but you said you've been married 60, is it 61 or 62?
61.
62 in March. In March, it'll be 62 in March.
My goodness. This is an honor for me to just talk with you all. Been married for over 60 years, and you don't hear about that very often. So, you guys have been on this podcast. That's the longest number of years. So, anyone on here. So I'm excited just to hear about y'all's story. So I want to know for you all, when you guys met, I want to know what was going on with you, Uncle Art, and you, Aunt Judy, before you each actually met each other. So what was going on with your life before you actually met?
I graduated from high school. I didn't go on to college. My parents didn't encourage that because they were so steeped in work ethic.
Ethic.
And,
It's after lunch. Here in California.
Yeah, that's right.
So when I graduated from high school, the next week I was employed. Lewis was employed at a car dealership. And so they were looking for people, and I was hired right away. And so that's kind of the beginning. And, my life was in the car business with my brother for 35, 40 years. And so we worked together. But that's kind of the start of my beginnings with in here in Fresno. But the church we attended was a Zion Congregational Church, and it was a believing church. I mean, they believed in the working gospel of Christ and the workings there. And so when I graduated from high school, I was very active in sports, and this church called Memorial Baptist Church had a softball team. At that time, men's softball was really big, especially in California that I know of, because they had world tournaments of teams that would come and play in different cities. And but this church had I understand, a high level softball team. And I wanted to participate, but for me to play on that team, I had to be coming to that church.
Oh.
And guess who was there?
Hey, all right.
Judy will tell her story, how she ended up there. So that's kind of where I got started, going to that church and playing softball. But it was a gospel believing church, and preached the gospel. And I really was growing in my faith.
He even sang in the choir. And I will tell you, and he knows this, he doesn't carry a melody easily. But he found a way to sing in the choir. He would sit next to the guy that could sing. He would just listen to his tone, and then they'd quickly try to match it. And he did pretty good. But
that's amazing.
He did sing in the choir too. Plus, we were in the college group. So,
right. Yeah. So that's kind of where I first saw Judy, and but the involvement there and the pastor, was really a blessing to me. I'm growing in my faith, because I had earlier years. I could tell that maybe a little later the story, but I had come to know Christ at the other church. Actually, your grandpa, the German Brotherhood in Flint, actually some men came from that church, the Brotherhood, and did a week of meetings in Fresno.
Okay.
And that's where I received Christ. At the last meeting, I invited Christ into my life. And
wow.
And so that was kind of the start of my journey,
and then he was growing. Yeah. Go ahead.
Do you remember how old you were?
14.
14. Okay.
I had earlier made kind of a commitment, but there came a man from, he was an evangelist, came and kind of rededicated my life a few years later.
Okay.
But,
wow.
So that was kind of the start at that church, and got involved in youth groups, and just.
So when did you notice me?
That's a good question. Pass the mic to Aunt Judy.
Okay, tell that story. No.
We just, being in the group, of course, my thoughts were directed for what God had in mind for me as far as a wife. And, she was there, and I was attracted to her. And the process kind of started, and we...
Okay, now I get to tell my side of the story.
So we left off. Uncle Art found you beautiful, attractive.
He saw me.
He saw you.
Yeah, but I will tell you, my story's varied. I was in that same church. We had moved to Fresno. My dad bought a farm, and because that's what he knew. And he bought a farm, and we visited and ended up at that Memorial Baptist Church too. And I was also in the choir, and we were both in that college group. And he one time, at the persuasion of several of the guys who were going with girls, said, "Oh, well, why don't you bring Judy to this event?" Well, he did. And then that was it. He dropped me. And I said, forget this. He's not interested. And so I will tell you that by this time I was in college and I did go on and get a teaching credential at that time. And I was, oh golly, can't think of what I wanted to say. I know. I was determined men were not important. I'm not, I'm going to get my credential. And in those years, I don't know if you would know this, Ruth, there was an exchange program with Europe where teachers who were credentialed could go to Europe and do an exchange. And I was going to work towards that. And that sounded so fun. Yeah. I was ready to go to Europe. Not get married, although I did want to be married. Okay. Right. So anyway, that's the end of that.
Wow. So in other words, you said early 20s at this point, or
yeah,
early 20s, you're like, please, I don't need to get married right now. I'm going to get my teaching, go to Europe and have some fun. Kind of.
Yes. And live a little while.
Live a little.
Get married. Live a little different.
So what happened there?
And then, go ahead. He's got to tell the story about the progressive bicycle event we had from house to house, dinner, appetizers. Okay. So
great.
Tell that story, Art.
Well, why don't you tell your version?
Okay, my version is that he kept trying to run me off the road. And I was not interested. I'm going to Europe. I'm not going in the gutter. So we get to the last place, to the dessert. And I'm sitting on the floor, I believe, with my friend who I had just told her out in the field when we were suckering the grapes. Anybody who knows about grapes knows you have to take off the excess vines that will draw and not allow the vineyard to grow as well. Anyway, that's a little vintage culture here. But I said, I'm done with guys. So there we are at dessert. I'm sitting on the floor. He's sitting in a chair. There's a chair next to him. And he says, oh, Judy, you can come and sit by me. And guess what I said? No, thank you.
I said, no, thanks.
Where I am. And I did not get up. What you liked about that?
Well, that really became a challenge. Would try to conquer. Yeah.
So you didn't mind a little feistiness from her.
No. So please, I started to pursue, and I think it took her home that night, and we started courting or dating, and so it's
that was May.
Okay.
That was in May. December I was engaged.
So much for your Europe plans. So
yes.
And March we're married.
And by March we're married. It went very quickly. And it was right. In 2 weeks I knew. I said, this feels comfortable. This is right. This is the person that I think I could spend my life with. That's how it felt.
So we gotta unpack that a little bit, because
that's not normal, right?
Right. Well, like we've talked about, what is normal, but I'm curious. So Aunt Judy, you said you were like, I'm done with men. Were there things prior to Uncle Art that got you there, or were you just like, whatever, I just want to like have some fun? Like, what was sort of behind that spirit of like,
I'm kind of that way. I kind of make up I have determination, and then there's not a lot that will bend me, except I will bend. I do bend. But when I have that, this feels really good. I think this is where I'm going to go with this. But we understand, both Art and I, that there is a higher influence than just ourselves and our emotions. Thank and so God. On. Yes. And God was orchestrating all of this, and he provided it. And I will say that I lived in a home that had secrets and difficulties. There was a lot of not very good things happening in my home. So leaving that home wasn't a problem for me.
Sure.
I didn't have that. I always felt like I was the adopted child. And I looked like my mother and I talked like my dad, I guess. So how I got that idea.
Right.
Or I thought like my dad. I didn't talk like my dad. I thought like my dad. But anyway, so I'm not adopted. But I did feel like that was okay to leave this house and to leave and to be somewhere else. I didn't mind it at all. It was a good thing for me. So when we connected, it did go fast. I felt like, this is a good man. And within 2 weeks, I felt that way. I don't know if yours went as fast. Did it?
It did. I was observing her, in the youth group for a number of months, and they traveled 20 miles to our church from the farm. And so, for them to make that trip beside just Sunday or Sunday school time, you had evening worship or midweek or whatever. So this family was very faithful. And, she had two sisters, and the brother was, I think, out of the house at that time, going to college. And so they're coming to the church, and she has her Bible in the youth group. And I saw what she was observing and really getting involved in seeing what God has in His Word and how she could grow in Him. So that really, and with the background with her parent or her dad coming from Russia and my parents coming from, there seemed to be a common.
That was a commonality,
right?
Yeah.
And so
we had similar
that was
experiences.
A big attraction for me, because I wanted, I had seen my dad in his walk with Christ. It was morning, noon, and night. He worked in the shop, but at lunchtime he would take a break and take some scriptures. He would pray, and the evening was concluded. Mornings. And plus, there was a lot of studying because they were speaking at these brotherhood meetings and stuff. And so I saw a lot of that.
Well, that's probably our biggest connect.
Right.
We always talk about our connections. One was that both families came from Russia. They both were had to adjust to a new culture. And so we experienced it. When I met his dad, I understood him because of that, I'm sure. And then we both, in our surprising way, we both had strong family, church, and the Bible became the key. My father made us read 3 chapters a day.
Oh, wow.
And then he would, and as soon as we could learn to read, we were reading 3 chapters a day, and he would quiz us. I mean, he just doesn't let us get by with reading and saying, "Yeah, I did that."
Yeah, right.
Said, okay, this is what did you find out? And then to come with art, and he's a father who saturated himself also with the Word of God. He really loved that. And he often said, "I want to be a Daniel." So he'd open his window and he'd pray 3 times a day in German. We may have, anyway, and he'd open his window, and the neighbor next door knew German, was a believer. And she said when he passed away, she missed those prayers. She could hear him praying through the window.
Wow.
So this was again, another way that we connected in our, even though we're extremely and uniquely different, which is the next part of the story of love.
Right.
Now what?
So how, now I'm curious. Oh, I love this. I'm curious. You said, Aunt Judy, within 2 weeks, you were like, "Yep, thank you." Uncle Art, did you have a moment where you were like, "Yes, that's my woman," or did you guys sense like People describe how God brought them and their spouse together in different ways. Some people are very logical about it. Like, yeah, it worked. So, and then some people are like, nah, God spoke to me. It was very clear. This is what his hand was. How would you describe your understanding of like, I want to marry Judy and I want to marry Art?
Observing the family and seeing to me, the love that they had for Christ. And I wanted that to be part of my future wife, and I just saw the commonality and how things that we were in agreement with.
Yeah.
And I just, I was attracted to her. And after that progressive dinner, my heart really grew warm toward her, and that was, kind of the start, and it just grew. And so,
well, like for me, it was more than okay. So, we talk about falling in love.
Yeah,
I don't think that was part of my feeling of falling in love.
Yeah.
At the time, I knew I wanted to be married. Yes, I had this goal of Europe and teaching, but I think I was more in love with the idea of being married at that time for some reason. That seemed to be and yet when I looked at him, there were qualities in him I had never seen in a man before. And that's, I think, was my attraction. They were things that there was I call him a man without guile. He's a man he means what he says and he says what he means. And I don't know if I caught that at that time because I was too young to really catch it, but maybe I sensed it. I don't know.
Yeah.
And so there was a sensing of this is right, almost more than, would we classify that as love? I don't know. It was just, yes, this is right. This is maybe kind of what Adam said when he saw Eve.
Right.
Yo, woman.
Right.
She's mine. I don't even know if they knew about love at that point.
Sure. No, you're right.
So, this is the connect. So anyway, and I was 20 and
I was 23.
Yeah, he was 23 and I was 20. And I couldn't even sign my own marriage license because I didn't turn 21 until May. And we got married in March.
Thing. Okay. So you had to be a certain age. So your parents had to sign for you?
Yeah, right. They signed me away.
Sounds like they were more than willing to, but
they were. They liked this boy. My mother liked Art better than she liked me. I know she did. My mother just loved Art. He was very kind to her too. He was a good son-in-law. Really good.
I love that. I love how you both of you really just described, like, there was nowadays we call it a list, they met my list, but most importantly, you were seeing in one another things that were very important to you, that you knew you needed to have, and ultimately God would want you to have. So, and you saw that in each other.
I think the important things for us, we saw as kind of like in oneness, the important things. And, it took us to get married before we realized there were some things that we were going to work on. But
sure,
I think the oneness came in these things that were really important. Loving to go to church, wanting to hear the word of God, wanting to grow. I often have said to young women that I've met, make sure you find a guy that is seeking hard after God. If he's in church, that's one thing, but no, is he seeking hard after God? He may be in church and not seeking hard after God. You don't want that kind of guy.
Right.
You want the one that's seeking hard after God, and I know he was, so that was important to me. He loved the Lord. I knew he loved the Lord. So
there was nothing, in what I saw in Judy that I would want to change. Or
oh,
That's a sweet comment. Expand on that.
never said that before. I never
That's-
heard that before.
I want to cry myself. There was some, so you didn't want to change her.
the couples, we just run across a couple here just recently. She was 38 and he was 35, but she was questioning some of the things that she saw, that wanted to make sure that that would be a fit for. But I had no questions regarding Judy. I know she loved the Lord. I loved the Lord, and I wanted to serve Him, and she was there also. And
well, I remember he said to me, I said, what was part of this? And we had gone to dinner. We were still dating, and we were talking about things of the Lord. And he said something about some verse, and I pulled a New Testament out of my purse, and he said that really made an impact on him. That I had a Bible, and I wanted to there in the restaurant.
Would bring it out
and get it out. So anyway, were important things at that time.
Absolutely.
Has only grown more now through the years.
Sure. So, and how did you all decide? I'm assuming Uncle Art that, well, I'll just say, how did you decide, Uncle Art, that now was the time to get engaged and work towards marriage? So how did you, was this a conversation you all had with each other, or Uncle Art, did you make that decision? How did you know now is the time?
We had talked about it between us prior to the engagement, and I says, well, I think we should go ahead and get a ring and I proposed later on, but it was just the right timing at that particular time, and I was ready, and I think she was ready.
Mm-hmm.
She had two sisters that were married all in 1 year.
Yeah, I was ready weddings. Because I already had my dress. It was the dress my sister's dressmaker made for her wedding. My second sister wore it. I was the last one, but I had to lose a lot of weight to fit it. So I was ready because I had a dress.
There you go.
That's a joke. No, I was ready. I was ready.
That's amazing. No, I love it. I want to know a little, just before we move on to the next part, I'd love to know a little anecdote of what did pursue look like at your time? Dating and courtship, all that has changed a lot, for better or for worse, maybe depending on who you talk to. But I'm curious, what did pursuit of Aunt Judy look like for you? What did that mean?
Trying to,
that's a hard question in a way,
right? Piece that together.
For me, I say we weren't afraid. We didn't have as much, what should we call it, concerns for the baggage. Maybe we weren't looking. Maybe there wasn't as much out there. It wasn't so obvious. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I just saw that she was a good fit for our relationship to go on. And
was it true? Okay, but did you think it was that way with the other people in our group? We had other people that got married in our group. Were they also more relaxed about it? Not so. I don't know if we had lists like everybody does today.
Yeah. Less expectations, maybe, or
we're not so paranoid. We weren't paranoid about it. We just
Mm.
did it. We just risked
That's
it. Maybe,
interesting.
I don't know.
I like that.
Maybe we were willing to take a risk more than today. Today we're scared. I'm watching young women and men, they're frightened. I think that's the other side of this. Ours just happened. Whereas I think today we're having to make it, the dating apps make it happen rather than, we didn't have dating apps
Sure.
in that.
Sure.
So it's a whole different mindset among the young people. And maybe they're not as afraid as we weren't afraid.
We weren't afraid at all.
No, we just figured we'd make it work. Maybe that's what it was. I don't know. We did not think of other options. I think that was part of it. Maybe. I don't know.
I love what you're saying.
Well, what also, Ruth, what I saw in my parents' relationship, I never, and I don't know if this is good or bad, but I never saw them arguing. Maybe they had discussions in private. And so I saw a mother that was really submissive and a father that loved her and wanted the best for her too. So I didn't even realize that, that there could be, maybe I was naive, but.
And mine was not that story, and maybe that's what attracted me to him, because I saw this peace in that family. Because mine was things were thrown across the room with anger, so I had a different view of that, but I saw the softness in him, so maybe that's what was part of this too. So anyway,
that calmness and
interesting.
It is interesting. It does seem to be sort of a Herwaldt trait passed on in a, we talk about generational curses. There's also generational blessings, and sort of that that is how at least grandchildren perceived Grandpa Fred, your older brother, as he was just a very calm, peaceful, consistent man. And that's how we viewed him. And I could not imagine. Now, I'm sure my aunts and uncles, my mom and her siblings saw this side. But the thought of my grandpa, being a mean person.
No, he wasn't. He was awesome.
I couldn't imagine.
No.
So that seems to be just, that was true in my perceptions of Uncle Bill, your brother Bill, and the other, those were the few that I got to meet. But that calmness, that gentleness, that humility is something I see in all of them, and all of you, including yourself, Uncle Art. So
yeah, I saw that in your grandpa really much.
He was a sweetheart.
We traveled back east after we were married and the kids were older, but and with Bill and your grandpa and grandma and Martha, they were there. And I mean, the kindness and gentleness and the caring that I saw in him.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just amazing.
Amazing, because at that time, Bill was starting to have Parkinson's, and how your grandpa would come alongside him. It was sweet. It was really, it's a good family. I'm glad I have that last name. It's good. And you know what's interesting, and we talk about it, but even we see that same quality in Lewis's son Danny, and in Patty and Danny. Danny is our nephew, Lewis's son. Precious. He's just Herwaldt. He's just got that same Uncle Fred, Grandpa Fred.
Yeah.
Good. So anyway, these are the things that probably help in relationship then. Know that there's a heritage that's there. Yeah. So.
And modeled, that you saw that. And I'm curious, you enter marriage then, and I mentioned before that, this season of the podcast, we're focusing on redemptive challenges. So challenges in a through the lens of God helping us through and overcoming. And so I'm curious for you all, your 61 plus years of wisdom, what's a challenge you all have faced? And you guys can have different answers too as well, but what's a challenge you all have faced, and how has God helped you either overcome it or at least work on it in some way?
You want to start, or I want to start? Okay. Well, with the family that we had, I learned to stuff. I learned to stuff everything down. And so I come into the marriage and I'm still stuffing. I'm still stuffing down all my emotions, all the things I'm feeling and all of that. And so in the redemption of that, yes, I was in the Word. Yes, we were in church. Yes, but I was struggling. I struggled with there was a lot going on inside of me. So the stuffing continued and continued until one day, it was about 15 years into our marriage. I would say it was more about 15 years. He was working and I was watching the kids and, me stuffing. And finally one day I said, I can't stuff anymore. And I know what it was. I would explode and he wouldn't know why. There was no reason for me to explode, but I knew in looking back that it was because I had stuffed it, and one little thing triggered everything, and then all of Mount Vesuvius
everything came out, yeah,
and everything came out. So this was the redemption. It was really hard on him, but I said to him, I'm going to tell you something. In order for this not to continue to occur, I'm going to start telling you everything at the moment that's bothering me. And it was so hard on him because he had not heard me express my feelings this whole time.
Wow.
And for the first time, I began to say it and to say it and to say it. And there was a lot I was saying when it would bother me. Then finally one day I was done because it had all been resolved and I now knew I was safe. He would make me safe because of how did you react inside? I probably created a stuffing in him. I don't know.
It was a hard time.
It was a hard time. Tell me how you felt during that time, because I really did. And we did use the word divorce. I will tell you. At 15 years, if I said it was fine, but when he said it, because I knew what he meant and meant what he said, then I got scared. And then I go, oh no, do I really want this?
Wow.
And I knew I didn't.
Right.
From my perspective, I think maybe she came to the point in the stuffing or struggling, and that I really wasn't as sensitive in the car business. Work a lot of hours. You got to be there when the customers are there, and so it's 5.5, 6 day work week, and then on top of that, with church activities, and then I was on boards and stuff at the church, and then playing baseball longer than I should have, and really not giving her breaks and being sensitive to what her needs are instead of what and so I think in my perspective, that was some of the cause, I think, because she had no free time to express herself, and she's very gifted and in ministry, and she was a women's director for several years, and so I didn't meet her needs, and that's redemptive.
Wow.
That was sweet. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm curious. First of all, thank you all for sharing that. Because I think those are from the many stories I've been able to gather in conversations I've had with a lot of friends and family. That tension is a common one. I'm curious how you, Aunt Judy, how you learned how to navigate your voice, and Uncle Art, how you navigated meeting her needs, because that meant you both had to make changes. I mean, ultimately, changes had to be made, but how did you do that? Or what did you do? What changes did you make?
Mm, mm. That's a hard question, because I'm trying to click back to those back to those years. Uh, like I said, I think when I had completed the Mount Vesuvius lava down the thing, it cleared some things. Oh, and I also went to an amazing seminar all by myself, which was exactly what I needed. That was probably a turning point now that I think about it. It was a seminar that is not popular today, and I won't even mention which one it was, but it was one of those that was big time bringing you to truth. And I received it myself. If Art had been sitting next to me, I would have been listening for him, but I was listening for myself. And so I listened for myself. He said some things that I really needed to hear about all of what our world was and what I was doing. And I'm very analytical. I see positive and negative. But by this time in my marriage, I had so developed a pattern of being positive, of being negative about everything, that my brain would go to negative. I would see the positive, but I would dwell on the negative. And at this conference, he said, I want you to think about one positive thing about your husband that you can tell them.
Wow.
And I'm going to tell you, I had to think for many hours before I came up with one thing positive that I felt I could say, because I had so dwelt on all the negative things that he was not doing rather than the positive things that he was doing. I think for me, that was probably one of the first transitions in my thinking, was to focus on positive. And so you'll laugh when I tell you what the positive was. It came to me that I could be thankful that he would come home every night after work and come through those doors. And that was my one positive.
Yeah. He came home.
How he came home.
Yeah.
And I began dwelling on that. And pretty soon everything became more positive. And I learned how to dwell on positive things rather than, even though I still thought negative, I wouldn't dwell on it. I would just say, no, I'm going to get rid of that one. I want to stay on the positive. So that was my turning point with changing some of these things that were going on for me. I don't know if Art saw that. Did you see any of that? I don't know if you saw that. Yeah, but we've had our times. It's just the children. I was distracted with the kids and all of that. I don't know. Yes, he worked a lot, but you know what? Now again, because I'm going to dwell on the positive, boy, I'm glad he worked hard.
Right.
Because now we have, he was also wise in investing, and now we can live a certain lifestyle because he worked so hard. I'm not going to negate that. I'm going to say thank you for that hard work.
Right.
And at the time, was it hard on us? Yes. But I think sometimes we in our marriages forget that there is a payoff if a man or a woman works hard and then they invest, as long as they stay open in communication. And that is, I think that for us has been a tricky part, because if you stop to think, we were talking about this love language business a little bit. His love language, what's your love language? Your love language is what?
Acts of service.
Acts of service. And now listen to what mine is. Time.
Right.
Well, no, those two don't work together. I'm sitting down, I have my coffee cup, and he has his list of what he's going to go do his projects.
Right.
So that doesn't work. How do we make that work? And we've tried to make it work. It's a little easier now that we're both in a quieter way. And you know what? He has changed. He used to not think that was important, but he has changed so much. I think between the two of us, I think you've changed more than I've had to change. You changed a lot. And we have a good relationship. We still snarl.
Sure.
But how do you want to add to all this?
Well, I think saw through some of this that I needed to change and to be more attentive to her needs to share. And, she's very wanting to know every little detail. And
that's annoying to you. Why, where, what, how, when?
Yeah, classic. I get it.
And so I think God, in His grace, just showed me that I needed to spend more time doing that. And I think that eased up her situation too. And so,
and you know what?
Kind of a selfish guy, I guess.
No, we both are independent. He golfed and he had his golf friends, and I have friends. And the beauty of our relationship is, okay, I will say this to you. I truly believe, yes, love is huge and part of it, but I think before we can love, we have to understand. And to be understanding the fact that his is a gift of service, to understand that so that I can relate properly to it, makes me love him better.
Right.
To understand that his spiritual gift is compassion and mercy. And mine is, again, exhortation and encouragement.
Sure. Yeah.
And so don't ask me to go to the hospital. I'll just encourage them to get up and get out of there. Whereas he will bring compassion. And we make a good team. But I'm just saying, right. I'm being facetious now, but I'm saying that is the uniqueness. Now, we both, if I understand it, then I have to value it. As soon as I understand what he is, then I have to value it. Because if I don't value it, then I'm disregarding what God made. So I have to
That's a word.
regard what God made.
Oof.
I have to respect that. It's awesome. And I don't know whether couples are respecting what God has made in their mates. A lot of them. I don't think so. I don't know.
And I think
he does that to me.
Tried to encourage her to use her gift, because
he does.
We're created in God's image, and I'm no better than she is. We're equal in our walk and our lives. We have different roles God has given to us, but we're equal basis. But so, in today's world, you tell that to society, and
they don't.
That is not a popular thing.
No. And some men want to be the macho, and some women want to be the macho.
She didn't have a lot. She didn't have a lot of freedom in her home growing up. And when we got married, I says, "Hey, you can make a decision regarding that." And it really was hard on her even to do that.
I couldn't make decisions when we were first married because I didn't know what to do because I had been controlled.
And I gave her a lot of freedom, and I would hope that fulfilled her. That
was the blessing. That was another blessing in a redemption in our marriage, was his willingness. Okay, I don't think he realized how much control there was and that I was inadequate. But when he'd say, "Do what you want," do you know what? I'd go in the bedroom and cry. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. That's how I felt because I had been told what to do. Even, how high do you jump? Well, tell me how many inches I'm supposed to jump. That's what I was raised with. And then to come into a marriage where the man says, "Do what you think is right." Oh, it took me a long time to correct that, to make that work. But that was another positive for me. God gave me the right person. And did I know it at the beginning? No. I'm sorry, but I hate to say this to anybody. You don't know what you're marrying till you're married.
Well, God's hand was in all of this.
Yeah. And that's why I say understand what you're marrying, then respect it, then know God's hand is in it. I love that, Art. That's right. His hand is in it, and allow his hand to work and get so close to his hand that pretty soon you're only looking in his face. That's what we always talk about. Because if you stay looking at his hand, then all you want is what he can give us instead of looking at his face and having relationships. So I know that's our relationship too.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
you take parents that come from Russia and moved to the States and different parts. Her parents came in from San Francisco. Mine came from Ellis Island. And then to meet here, we go to Tucson, and God's hand is in all this, and to meet at the church. And it's happens with other, the couples also, but it's just amazing how that all worked out and the plan that God had.
Yep.
It's such a beautiful way to look at life, to see that God's hand is orchestrating and directing our steps, and he's the one that is shifting our lives around. We take often too much credit. We're like, oh yeah, went to Tucson. Well, who got you to Tucson? Who led you there?
Absolutely. That's
who led you to Fresno, and who just that recognition that God's hand is in it all. And before we wrap up, I could talk to you for hours. I just am loving this, but there's one thing I wanted you all to touch on, and this is actually related to our prior conversation in October. That's unrecorded, but you mentioned Aunt Judy and Uncle Art that you all came in with sort of different perspectives on love, or different understandings maybe of love. And I'm not talking about the googly, in love feelings, but Aunt Judy, you said here today already a little bit about your past and your family upbringing, and Uncle Art, we got to hear a little bit about the Herwaldt history. Could you share with everyone what those two different perspectives of love were, and how did you grow in sort of being on the same page about what real love is?
Well, for me, I don't think I even understood what love was. There was no such thing. When I married him, I liked, but love, as we would define it today, I didn't see it that way. I don't know if I even thought very much about what love was, except I thought that what I was doing was love, taking care of the family and doing, and finally, I think what for me has been the clarity of what love is that in these last years, I've begun to understand what love really is. And it's not what I have received when you're first married, you want to get what you want to get and have what you want to have and feel my needs and fit my needs. But that's not what I'm understanding now. I realize that love for me is to give up my rights to myself for the better of him. And there are times when I would like to say something, and I'm learning even there to bite my tongue, not say it, because that would be love. And the love model for me is the love of Jesus. Look at what he did. If Jesus would do, and they're in that garden, say, not my will, but yours be done. And then he goes to a cross, and then he provides a way for me to have a relationship to God because of what he did. Ultimate of love. He sacrificed absolutely everything in order to give us a relationship to God for our good and for our best. So love to me now means give up your rights to yourself, die to who you are if you must, so that you can see higher for those around you. And it does relate to art, but it also relates to all of my relationships, my women friends, all of them. I'm wanting to learn to love all of the world better, even the stranger in the grocery store. How can we show the love of Jesus in a greater way? So the concept of love goes to him definitely in giving up rights, but it has become an extension.
Yeah, absolutely.
It becomes an extension of loving everyone. So that's where I went with the idea of love. So,
I don't know how to express this, but I had a great desire for Judy. I mean, she was just something that I felt that God was putting together, and Christ loved us so much that he gave his only son, the Lord Jesus Christ, and he took the darkness away from us when we received him and gave us the kingdom of his dear son. And we are to love our wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself for him. So I think it's just God's process.
I think the closer we get to God, the more we love each other. That beautiful example of the triangle. Here I am down here, and as I step up that triangle, the closer I get to God, the closer we are too. So that's kind of what you're saying too. Huh?
Right.
Yeah. Well, he's always had this great heart of, I haven't always valued it but I am more and more his sweetheart about the things of the Lord. And that's very precious. And as we're on the threshold of seeing him, seeing your parents, grandpa, maybe. I don't know how all that works, but we are looking forward to that. But we are going to love each other and finish the race and finish our course, however long that is. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Amen.
It's good stuff.
It is. Uncle Art, do you want to say anything? I have one last closing question.
Go ahead. I just want to say that, our concern in the Christian walk is not just to love each other, but to with our family, and we don't want to lose a generation for Christ.
So,
yep.
I want to close out with this question, and take your time answering it. You both get to answer, but the name of this podcast is Heartbeatz, and I'd love for you each to share as we wrap up. What's something your spouse does today that makes your heart beat? However you want to answer that.
I can answer. Can I go first?
Sure.
Give him a little time to think about that. You know what makes my heart beat and make it just amazing? You'll be surprised, maybe. Is that sweet tenderness that you just saw in him. How when he thinks about something that's hard for one of our grands or a friend, and we're together, and he'll start speaking of it, and then his lip will start quivering, and he'll start feeling the compassion and the concern for that person. That's what makes my heart beat, his concern, how he bears the burdens of other people, and has this deep, deep concern for their souls as well as their well-being. And I love the quivering. Just now, he had some quivers. I'm sorry, don't quiver now. You got to answer this. But that's my heartbeat right now. And I think his willingness. Okay, I have to add one more. What makes my heart beat is his willingness to do different than his nature. And that is, he's sharing his heart more than he's ever. And it's not his nature to share. It's not easy for him to share. Words are hard sometimes. It's they come out they come out like he doesn't want them to come out, or he doesn't know what word he wants to use, or whatever it is. It doesn't matter. But he's really wanting to do that. And that's making my heart beat. It's just how he's changing something that's not that's kind of foreign to him. And he's willing to do it because he knows I need that time.
Beautiful.
So that's really good. So thank you for that.
I would say that my heart is directed toward God, the heartbeat, and I want to please Him more and more in my Christian walk. And it says in Ephesians that I implore you that you walk worthy of the calling that you received, and that I would live that, and I'm seeing that growth in my wife, and the heartbeat that we have, and the concerns for children, grandchildren, and just the lost. We've got a fellow coming here shortly, a young man that wants to talk with me, and I don't know why. I know the family and a little bit of the background, but he's 15, 16 years old, and but my heart is, wants to be directed and submitted fully to our great Savior.
Amen. 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 Wow. That's beautiful. And I just want to say thank you both so much for your transparency, your honesty, your heart for God. You all just brought out some I call them gems, gems that are really just sticking out to me about about not being afraid of you talked about just taking that risk that our generation overthinks too much, which is true, but also the selflessness. The heart of love is selfless. The heart of love is dying to self. Really just appreciate your all's example and witness. And I look forward to visiting you in Fresno someday.
Yeah, come on. We've got extra friends. Oh, it was fun to get acquainted with you as well.
Right.
We've enjoyed this time with you and knowing where you came from. I didn't realize it was Fred, and that's just he was our special. And then it is his oldest son, Fred Jr. Oh, we loved that boy.
Yes.
Oh, we loved him. And
yes, we did.
Well, we carry on the legacy, girl. You do it too.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. You as well. You all enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll talk soon.
Fun. Okay. Take care. All right.
Thank you so
Bye.
Much.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Well, y'all, we made it to the end of the episode where I share my heartbeat, which is what did I sense God speaking to me as I listened to their story. And of course, there were so many things. I wanted to just sit at their feet and ask them so many things about life, about all the things. And I just am so grateful for their time and their sacrifice and their wisdom. And so I just do want to continue to encourage each of you to listen and hear the stories of your family, hear the stories of the people God has placed in your lives. What wisdom can you glean? How can you understand even your own self, your own family better? But enough about that. So my heartbeat really is this. What's the lens you see life through? And Aunt Judy got up in my business, okay? Because she talked about that complaining spirit, right? That she so often saw things in a negative way. Can I just say right now, I can really relate to that. Just how easy it is to see negative things. What is someone not doing? What is God in our perspective not doing? And that God invites us to see through his lens. And I think, I've talked about this before, that a friend of mine and I lead a women's ministry called Through His Lens. And seeing through God's lens doesn't mean a Pollyanna, oh, everything is great, 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 great. There's no issues whatsoever. But recognizing the positive, the good that we see in other people, seeing God's hand involved in the circumstances of our lives, even the hard ones. Did he not help you through? Did he not give you courage? Did he not give you the energy you need or the wisdom you needed to navigate that tough situation? God's hand is overseeing our lives. And God has placed his creation in front of us. Who are the people in your lives? They are part of God's creation. And therefore, can you see the positives, the beautiful qualities that he has placed in them? Whether you are talking about a spouse or friends or neighbors, maybe people at work, but just that challenge of, how are you seeing things? What's the lens in which you are seeing people and life, your life through? And I believe God is inviting us to see through his lens, see people as his creation, see the tough circumstances as an opportunity for him to show up. Okay? And the good ones, the good circumstances we find ourselves in, those are good gifts from God. So as you're heading into this week, as whenever you're listening to this, I would encourage each of us to pray, Lord, help me to see more and more of life through your lens. Help me to embody a positive spirit in how I see people. Help me to speak out the goodness of God. So I love y'all. Thank you for joining us on the Heartbeatz podcast. And please join us for our next conversation. God is moving. God is good. And he loves you. And I hope you know that today. All right, y'all. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day and week ahead.
You are my dream. There's no me without you. You are my dream. You're what dreams are made for. You are my dream. We're a three-strand cord. When I saw you, my heart skipped a beat.
When I saw you, my heart felt complete. Yeah.
But I wasn't ready to speak.
So I took the first word I was ready to greet.
But God knew
Shot my
we
shot,
were
baby.
meant to be.
I knew we were meant to be. Yeah. We were meant to be. Yeah. We were meant to be.